It's always been a part of my life, but it originally served as a comfort zone rather than something that I had ever planned to do as to make a living, because being raised with my grandparents and my grandfather being a minister, music was used for comfort or for raising your spirits and such, and that's where it mostly has its place in my life still.
Now tell me if I'm wrong, but originally you were planning to be a music teacher, weren't you?
That was my plan. Yes, I went to school to be a music teacher, and just before I finished, Reagan came into office and he took all the arts out of school, so that plan went up in smoke.
Well, we're all very grateful for that, because otherwise your talent may have been lost forever. So what happened when that all, as you say, went up in smoke? You obviously had to rethink your plan, didn't you?
Well, I had to rethink that. I also was a single mother by this time, and the social conditions in America were really concerning me about what kind of chances my child was going to have in that environment. At the same time, the JB All-Stars, which was Bobby Byrd, Vicki Anderson, Maceo Parker, Pee Wee Ellis, and Lynn Collins, and Marva Whitney, all of them had banded together to do tours around Europe and had asked me to come along. And I was just like an opening act and be background vocals and so forth, and came along, and that's where I met who would then turn into be the Young Disciples, Marco Nelson and Femi Williams. And they suggested to me then that I could come over here and work, and I thought, I could bring my baby? And I said, yes.
You mentioned the Bobby Byrd stuff and the things that you did there. You sang Denise Williams' Free, I think, didn't you? And it's quite a fitting track.
Well, yeah, it had been a song that I had been singing for a while. I don't think that I realized then why. I know now why, but yes, it was very fitting. Yeah.
With the Young Disciples, Apparently Nothing was an incredible hit, wasn't it?
You know, it wasn't something that any of us had planned on as a group. The Young Disciples were just meaning to put out music that they wanted to play for their friends. They DJ'd around in the clubs in Camden and so forth. So it was just a fluke that it caught on, but it was also because Gilles Peterson and Norman Jay, who were with the Talking Loud label and Phonogram Records at the time, heard the music and were in a position to sign the act. So it was, it all fell into place in right time and all that kind of stuff.
Also coincides with the working relationship you had with Paul Weller
exactly.
in the early days, and that was very, very important, I guess, because to get somebody like him, you know, behind you, and you worked in his studios, of course, in London. That was a great sort of springboard as well,
and continues to be, because since we started working together from the early days with the Young Disciples, I met him through Marco Nelson of the Young Disciples, but I've worked on Paul's records, and Paul co-produced and co-wrote my second album, Blessed Burden, with Virgin Records, and we've worked on each other's work back and forth, so we continue to work together. His support for people that he believes in is nonstop. He's just incredible. It's great to come across musicians who are like that, so generous in their musical spirit like that.
It's obvious to me that your musical roots, gospel stroke soul, is pretty much a driving force for you, isn't it? And you have the perfect voice for that.
It is the foundation where everything starts from. I mean, I love jazz and I love the new soul type stuff, but gospel and soul is the foundation where it starts from for me.
We haven't even mentioned the brand new Heavies, of course, and that was a successful time as well. R&B funk, but the soul and the gospel stuff is still there.
Influences,
in your voice.
yeah.
Yeah. What was that period like for you?
Well, it was a very enriching time because it also gave me another aspect of performance that I hadn't had to incorporate into my act necessarily. The brand new Heavies are definitely a lively group. They're more reminiscent of the kind of James Brown thing, and they didn't have a singer at the time. And I was on my own at the time as well. So, and we had all met during those acid jazz days when the Incognito and Omar and De-Influence and thing was going on. But we never had a chance to work together. So for about 2 years, I covered their songs for them, and we toured Europe and stuff and Japan and stuff. It was brilliant. It was a great time and really expanded me for working in that kind of environment, because it's a very different thing working stadium stages in some small clubs.
Well, also very different,
by environment. A very different bag. Because, for my set, I'm sitting down at the piano. For them, I'm, jumping around dancing. So it's a big difference.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know whether you prefer being, a solo artist, or whether you prefer being the front singer, if you like, for a band? I mean, they're very different, aren't they?
Well, they all work for me. Like I did this recent thing with Paul Weller. He was doing a show at the Royal Albert Hall, and in the middle of his set, he called me out to do a duet with him. And this is not like a support act. This is already him and his, full-fledged thing. And so there is, it's a buzz from working in a team like that, with other elements in there. But there's also a buzz from doing your own thing as well. So I like them both.
As always, if you enjoyed this interview, please click on the like button, ring that notification bell so that you don't miss out in the future, and if you possibly can, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you.